Okay, let's do a quick talk on M-Tronics. So currently we are in Gen 3 of the M-Tronics. So you heard me reference the other day the black solenoid of death. That was the early version. Then they went to the green version. Now they're in the white version. And the reason that black solenoid of death, those components are gone now. You can't get them anymore. And so if they failed, a lot of times you were just left with nothing. And now there are some conversions and stuff out there. And so that's one of the things we're going to be doing on that 201 is actually converting that to a manual, regular style carburetor, flywheel, and coil to take the M-Tronic stuff away and make that saw usable again. But in any case, they do have different calibration procedures between the various generations, and your generation is listed on your foot tag on your handle, if that happens to still be there. But I have all those procedures pinned at the front of my business page. Make sure you read the description and the instructions because they are different between the various versions. Yes, you should be doing those occasionally if, like you've changed a muffler mod or an air filter, or your saw is not running right, etc., stuff like that. Seasonally, I think it's just a good idea to do, etc. But so what is it? This is it, okay? This is a solenoid. And if you know anything about a solenoid, it's essentially like it's just an on-off circuit that in this case acts like a plunger. And on the body of the carburetor, it plugs in right here. And it feeds what would otherwise have been the high and low circuits like your needles would have controlled. And so it's constantly reading for a variety of factors, that RPM and temperature and all that kind of stuff to dictate where the fuel setting needs to be. And so with that, honestly, these kind of got a bad rap when they were new, just like anything. It was new technology. It had some hiccups and stuff like that. But honestly, the current stuff that's out now is extremely reliable. And I think the service life on these, like Jed or Sean, if you guys are watching, comment, but I think it's like 1,000 hours. But, they do fail prior to that. But it's really not a big deal to swap those out. I recommend like any of the tree services or loggers, get yourself one of these service kits that contains a replacement solenoid as well as the orange fuel filter that's the high micron that you're going to want for any of the new M-Tronic and fuel injected stuff. And I think it's a T10 Torx. You just pop the screw off that holds this in, pop the new one in, and Bob's your uncle, away you go. And so it is a system that, in my opinion, is superior to the Husqvarna. The auto-tune, if you have a component that needs to be replaced, it's going to have to go to a dealer, get plugged into a laptop, and get all that stuff to talk to each other again. Here, if you're having an issue, oftentimes I'll just replace whatever component it is, generally speaking the solenoid, but it could be that you have a bad carburetor or coil or something like that. And it's truly all plug and play. You can just put it in, fire up your saw, and away you go. And so it's less complex. It's a less annoying system for somebody like me to use. But truly, so in comparison to a standard carburetor, this thing is adjusting constantly all the time to be spot on. And its job is to keep the saw safe too. So it'll do a better job of adjusting the carburetor than you're ever able to do. So if you're a guy that can't figure out tuning, doesn't like to tune, or whatever, this stuff is great. Are there times when a standard carburetor might be superior? There's a few times. One, obviously this is a component that can fail. It's electronic, so it's unlikely that your standard carburetor is just going to all of a sudden puke out on you in the middle of the day. There are conditions where you can squeak more out of a carburetor because you can force it to do things that this, because it's trying to protect the saw, won't allow you to do. And so, there are times when a regular carburetor can be superior, but generally speaking, for most people, most of the time, these are really good systems, and they're very reliable now. And far more simple than most people think. Again, it's really just a little solenoid plunger that's controlling the fuel circuits by reading a variety of factors and talking in conjunction with the coil, etc. So anyhow, that being said, if you have any other questions or whatever, stick them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. But that's kind of the basics behind the M-Tronic system.